Dad, tell me you're joking. Daniel stood in front of his family, the soft ticking of the grandfather clock filling the silence. His tailored suit hung on him like it didn't belong anymore. His shoulders were slouched. His eyes tired. But this was all part of it. I lost everything, he said quietly. The companies, the properties, our investments. It's all gone. The silence that followed wasn't shock, it was calculation. His son, Alex, leaned back in his chair, already glancing at his wife, who pursed her lips like she tasted something bitter. His daughter, Olivia, blinked in disbelief, her perfectly manicured nails twitching on the armrest. Even little Mason, his teenage grandson, stopped tapping on his phone. I'm sorry, Daniel added. We're going to have to make some changes. At first, there were soft words of comfort. Money isn't everything, we're a family, we'll get through this. His wife, Margaret, even reached for his hand, squeezing it gently. He wanted to believe it. For a moment, he almost did. But that moment passed quickly. By the end of the week, the kindness faded. No more home-cooked dinners. No more warm glances. No more, we love you anyway. Instead came whispers behind doors. Passive-aggressive remarks. Impatience. Blame. 3 weeks in, Daniel walked past their bedroom and heard Margaret on the phone, her voice low, tight, trembling, but not from sadness. He's not the man I married, she said. I can't live like this. I need more. I deserve more. That night, Daniel sat alone in his study, lights off, the fireplace flickering in front of him. His hands trembled slightly as he lifted the glass of untouched whiskey. They believed it. Every single one of them. They thought the money defined him. They failed the test. He was still a billionaire. Every cent was still there. Hidden. Untouched. And now, the man they thought was broken? He was about to show them exactly who he really was. Daniel held the flyer between his fingers like it might catch fire. A pleasant shade of pastel blue, with photos of smiling elderly people playing chess, gardening, sipping soup. Margaret placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. I'm not saying you have to. I just think it might be good for you. A fresh environment. Peace. Peace. What she really meant was, you're in the way. In just a few weeks, the house he built, literally designed from the ground up, no longer felt like his. The rooms were colder. The conversations shorter. The respect, gone. Alex now paid the bills. Olivia took control of household decisions. Margaret had subtly started wearing expensive jewelry again, even though they were supposedly broke. Daniel noticed it all. He always noticed. They didn't kick him out. They phased him out. His office was now Alex's workspace. His favorite chair was moved to the garage. Olivia's boyfriend started sleeping in what was once Daniel's quiet reading room. The message was clear, you're not needed anymore. But he didn't argue. He just nodded, smiled, and quietly packed a small suitcase. No one asked where he was going. No one cared. The senior living facility was bright, efficient, and emotionless. Just like the flyer promised. He checked in under a fake name. They gave him a modest room and a schedule: breakfast at 8, group activities at 10, lights out at 9. Daniel played along. Woke up. Ate the food. Joined the yoga class. Waved at nurses. But every night, he opened his laptop, encrypted and private, and watched. He saw Margaret using his car. Olivia using his old credit card. Alex trying to sell shares in a company he thought he now owned. They had taken everything they could from him. They thought he was broken. Powerless. Gone. They had no idea. Daniel wasn't hiding. He was waiting. Daniel took the envelope with steady hands, though his heart had already picked up pace. The man in the gray suit disappeared as quickly as he came, not a word more, not a glance back. Inside the envelope was a single key card, a location, and a handwritten message. You said 30 days. You lasted 23. They showed themselves. Let's begin. Daniel packed his few things and checked out of the facility without saying goodbye. No one stopped him. No one cared. A private car waited outside, sleek, black, windows tinted. As soon as he stepped in, the doors locked with a soft click. The driver didn't speak. Daniel didn't need him to. The silence was familiar, like slipping into an old suit that still fit perfectly. An hour later, they arrived at the top floor of a high-rise downtown. Not just any building, one of Daniel's. Still under his name. Untouched. Protected. Hidden in plain sight. Inside, everything was as he left it. Monitors. Files. Surveillance feeds. Bank accounts. Documents. Backup plans he'd set up years ago when he still believed in caution. Now he believed in confirmation. And revenge. He sat in his chair, his real one, the leather worn in just right, and pulled up the files. First was Alex. Daniel watched footage of him in a suit that cost more than he ever earned himself, pitching to investors using Daniel's old materials. Claiming ownership. Claiming legacy. Claiming lies. Olivia was next. Posting on social media as if nothing had changed. Luxury spa. Private brunches. Wearing a necklace Daniel had gifted her mother 30 years ago, a necklace Margaret swore she had sold. And Margaret, he saved her for last. She was the only one Daniel had hoped would prove him wrong. Instead, she was the worst. Candlelit dinners with an old friend from her college days. Secret account transfers. Long walks that ended in hotel lobbies. Daniel sat back and exhaled slowly. His hand trembled slightly, but not from weakness. From restraint. They hadn't just failed the test. They'd buried the man who gave them everything. And now, without knowing it, they had awakened someone else entirely. Someone smarter. Colder. Calculated. The man they thought had vanished wasn't gone. He was just getting started. Daniel wired the money through 3 offshore accounts, letting it appear like an old forgotten investment had finally paid off. $50,000 into Alex's account. 20 into Olivia's. 75 to Margaret. Each labeled the same, restitution fund. No sender. No details. Just a number that whispered hope. Within hours, the cracks in their masks widened. Alex called his wife, bragging that luck was finally turning. Olivia booked a weekend trip to Paris. Margaret? She made a down payment on a new condo, in her name only. Daniel watched it all in real time, sipping his coffee in silence. They didn't question it. They didn't hesitate. They didn't even think to ask if maybe this was a test. That was the point. Greed doesn't pause. It runs forward blind. On day 3, Daniel called a meeting through his legal team, inviting the family to a confidential recovery opportunity. A lawyer none of them knew, sleek and serious, told them an investor wanted to help the family bounce back. But only one of them could be trusted to manage the new funds. "We need a leader," the lawyer said. "Someone with vision." They turned on each other in minutes. Olivia accused Alex of mishandling the last estate. Alex blamed Margaret for emotional instability. Margaret sat in icy silence, then calmly reminded them she was the only one with a clean financial record. She lied, of course. The room turned dark. Not literally, but something in their faces shifted. Hunger. Desperation. Ego. Daniel sat behind the mirror, unseen, watching everything. His hand didn't shake this time. He simply whispered, "Perfect." Margaret froze. With the letter in her hands, her fingers tightening around the paper until it crumpled slightly. She looked around the empty parking lot, her heartbeat loud in her ears. She hadn't seen that handwriting in weeks. She told herself she didn't care. But she hadn't thrown out his old shirts. She hadn't changed the voicemail. She hadn't stopped checking the account he used to manage. She read the sentence again. You were never being tested. You were being revealed. It wasn't angry. It wasn't dramatic. It was calm. Cold. Final. And that terrified her more than yelling ever could. That night, she didn't sleep. She paced the condo she just started furnishing alone. Glass walls. Designer lamps. A space that was supposed to be freedom. Now it felt like surveillance. The next day, Olivia called her in a panic. Mom, did you get something from Dad? Margaret hesitated. What do you mean? A letter. He sent me one too. Said something about truth. About consequences. Margaret didn't answer. She was already walking to her safe. She entered the code slowly, but her fingers were shaking. Inside, the envelope she hadn't told anyone about, the emergency fund Daniel had left for her years ago, was gone. In its place, a note. 2 words, nice try. That same day, Alex's car was towed. Not because of tickets, but because it wasn't really his. The registration was never transferred. The house he thought he inherited? A legal hold was placed on it. Olivia's credit cards stopped working. One by one, everything they thought they owned vanished. Quietly. Legally. Precisely. Daniel hadn't just watched them fall into his trap. He was now erasing the false lives they built with what they thought was his ruin. The masks were off. The real game had started. No one moved. The silence felt like a vacuum, thick and suffocating. Margaret's mouth opened, but no words came out. Olivia stepped back instinctively, like she'd seen a ghost. Alex's jaw clenched. You lied to us, he finally said. Daniel tilted his head slightly, eyes cold. No. I watched you lie to yourselves. He stepped forward slowly, his presence commanding in a way none of them had remembered. I told you I lost everything. And you treated me like I was nothing. Margaret looked away, shame flashing across her face before she masked it again. You manipulated us, she said quietly. No, Daniel said, voice sharper now. I gave you the truth. And all you had to do was stand by me. Olivia found her voice. We didn't know how serious it was. We were scared. Daniel turned to her. Scared people don't sell their father's watch online 3 days after he says he's broke. Her face flushed. You had us followed? Alex stepped forward. Why are you even here? What do you want? Daniel looked at each of them, pausing just long enough to make them uncomfortable. I'm here to give you a choice. The last one you'll get from me. He pulled 3 envelopes from his coat and placed them on the table. Inside each is your reality. What I'm offering. If you walk out of this house today, right now, you get what's in the envelope and we never speak again. Margaret's voice trembled. And if we stay? Daniel looked her in the eye. Then you earn it. From nothing. Like I once did. No shortcuts. No safety net. They stood there, stunned, uncertain. You always said money changes people, he continued. But it doesn't. It reveals them. And now. I've seen enough. Daniel looked down at her hand, warm against his, trembling. For a moment, he said nothing. His face unreadable. Margaret's tears began to fall, quiet, real. I was angry, she said, her voice cracking. I was scared. But I never stopped loving you. Daniel's eyes stayed locked on hers, searching for the woman he once knew. You said I was nothing, he whispered. I didn't mean it, she said instantly. I was trying to protect myself. I thought, if you were truly broken, I had to be strong. Strong by replacing me? He asked. Her lips trembled, but she didn't deny it. She just whispered, I'm sorry. Olivia spoke next. Dad, I was selfish. I thought you bailed on us. I didn't realize we bailed on you. Daniel didn't turn to her yet. His eyes were still on Margaret. You weren't supposed to be the one to fail me, he said quietly. She looked like she might collapse. Alex finally spoke, bitter and blunt. So what now? You just come in and test us like some twisted experiment? You think that makes you better than us? Daniel turned to him slowly. No. I don't think I'm better. I think I was just hoping you'd be better than this. Alex's mouth tightened, but he said nothing. Daniel stepped back from the table. This house, this family, this chance, none of it was about money. It was about who you became without it. He pointed to the envelopes. Those are still your choices. Take them and leave, or stay and rebuild, with me, not above me. Margaret looked at the envelope again. Her hand hovered over it, then pulled away. I'm staying, she whispered. Olivia looked at her father, tears running freely now. Me too. Alex stared at both of them, then at Daniel. His jaw clenched. His pride screamed. But something inside him cracked. He nodded, once. I'll stay. If you'll let me. Daniel looked at all three. The pain didn't vanish. The betrayal didn't dissolve. But something shifted. A door opened. And this time, it stayed open. The clink of glasses echoed softly through the room, but this time, it wasn't for appearances. It was quiet. Genuine. Daniel looked around the table, Margaret beside him, no longer distant, her hand resting gently on his. Olivia leaned in with real attention, not distraction. Even Alex, once guarded and sharp, laughed at something she said. There were no phones on the table. No tension in the air. Just a family trying to heal. The wealth was still there, untouched, waiting. But Daniel hadn't reinstated the luxury. No drivers. No staff. No headlines. They cooked together. Now. Cleaned. Laughed. Argued. Real life. Earned life. Margaret had returned the condo. Olivia sold the designer bags. Alex went back to school, quietly, privately, determined to build something of his own. And Daniel? He opened a small foundation, anonymous, for families who'd lost everything and had to start over. He told no one it was his. He didn't need to. After dinner, Margaret joined him in the garden, where the roses he planted years ago still bloomed. She looked at him with eyes that had learned how to love again. You could have walked away, she said softly. I almost did, he replied. But I remembered who you were before the money. And I needed to know if she was still in there. She leaned into him. She is. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Then we're rich again. In the end, it wasn't the money that changed them. It was the loss. The mirror it held up. And the choice they made when they saw themselves clearly. Daniel looked at the sky, stars just beginning to show. For the first time in a long time, he felt at peace. Not because he had everything, but because he'd finally found what mattered. The end.